The chaos horizon moved slowly through the dark space between stars. Captain Minho stood on the bridge watching the empty void outside. His ship was far from home, exploring areas where humans had never been before. The mission was simple. Look around, take notes, and try not to start any wars with aliens. So far, they had done a good job with the last part. Minho was a calm man who rarely showed fear. He had been a ship captain for 15 years. His crew trusted him completely. On this mission, he had his best people with him. Jiho ran the engines and kept everything working. Dr. Hana took care of medical problems and studied alien biology when they found any. Soman was the navigator who could find a way through any part of space. It was a quiet Tuesday morning when everything changed. Well, it was Tuesday on Earth. In space, every day felt the same. Soman was drinking coffee and checking star maps when her screen started flashing red. "Captain, we have a ship approaching," she said. Her voice was steady, but her hand moved quickly to the weapons console. Just in case. Minho walked over to her station. On the screen, he saw something massive. The ship was huge, maybe 10 times bigger than the Chaos Horizon. It looked old but well-maintained. Strange symbols covered its hull, glowing with a soft blue light. "Any weapons charging?" Minho asked. "No, sir. They're just sitting there, watching us." A message came through on the communication system. The voice was translated by their computer into something Minho could understand. It sounded polite, almost bored. "Greetings, unknown vessel. We are the Vexari, keepers of the infinite archive. We mean you no harm. We simply wish to catalog your species for our records. This is a routine procedure we have performed on thousands of civilizations. May we scan your ship?" Minho looked at his crew. Jiho shrugged. Dr. Hana nodded slowly. Soman kept her hand near the weapons, but she did not look worried. This seemed normal enough. First contact with a new species always involved some kind of information exchange. "This is Captain Minho of the Human Exploratory Fleet. We accept your request. Please proceed with your scan." He tried to sound official. Diplomatic protocol said to be friendly but firm during first contact. The Vexari ship, which they learned was called the Infinite Archive, moved closer. Arrays of sensors extended from its hull like mechanical arms reaching out. Beams of light, invisible to human eyes but visible on the Chaos Horizon sensors, began washing over their ship. Inside the Infinite Archive, Overlord Thain watched the scan begin. He was an old Vexari, ancient even by his people's standards. He had personally overseen the cataloging of over 300 species. This was routine, boring even. He sipped a warm beverage and waited for the data to come in. Next to him stood Kara, a young analyst who had just finished her training. This was her first real mission. She was excited and nervous. She watched the screens as data began flowing in. "The scan is progressing normally, Overlord," said Voss, the senior analyst. He had done this job for 50 years. Nothing surprised him anymore. "We should have complete data in approximately 10 minutes. Thain nodded and went back to his drink. Another species for the archive. Another page in the great book of galactic history. In a few hours they would move on and forget about these humans. 5 minutes into the scan, Kara noticed something odd. The numbers on her screen did not make sense. She checked them again. Still wrong. She ran a diagnostic on her equipment. Everything was working fine, but the data was impossible. "Senior Analyst Voss," she said quietly, not wanting to bother anyone over what was probably nothing. "I am getting strange readings from their power systems." Voss walked over without much interest. He glanced at her screen. Then he looked again more carefully. His expression changed from bored to confused. "That cannot be right." "Run the scan again on that section." Kara did as she was told. The results came back the same. Voss stood there staring at the screen. Other analysts began noticing problems too. Whispers spread through the scanning chamber. On the Chaos Horizon, Jiho was checking the engines when he noticed the Vexari scans were very thorough. Too thorough. They were looking at everything. Every wire, every bolt, every drop of fuel. He had never seen such a detailed scan before. "Captain, they are really going deep with this scan. They are looking at our backup systems, our backups, everything." Minho frowned. That seemed excessive for a simple catalog entry. But maybe the Vexari were just very careful. Or very bored. He decided to wait and see what happened. Back on the Infinite Archive, Overlord Thain was no longer relaxed. He stood at the main display, watching as more and more data came in. Each new piece of information raised more questions than it answered. The human ship had 17 separate power reactors. 17. Most species had one, maybe two. But 17? And they were all active, all running at the same time. The ship did not need that much power. So why have so many reactors? The weapon systems were equally confusing. The scan showed energy weapons, projectile weapons, missile launchers, and something the computer could not even identify. This was supposed to be an exploration vessel. Why did it have enough firepower to fight a small war? And the life support systems? They had backups for the backups. If every single primary system failed, the crew could still survive for months using emergency systems that ran on completely different technology. Overlord, Voss said carefully, I think we should also scan the biological signatures of the crew. To complete the catalog, Thain nodded. Proceed. That was when things got truly strange. The biological scans of the humans came back and several analysts gasped out loud. Kara felt sick to her stomach just looking at the data. The humans carried trillions of microorganisms inside their bodies. Trillions! Most of them were not even human cells. They were bacteria, viruses, and other things living inside the humans. Some of these microorganisms would be considered deadly bioweapons if found on most worlds. Yet the humans lived with them peacefully. More than that, they needed these organisms to survive. It was a nightmare of biology that should not be possible. Overlord Thain stared at the data for a long time. In his 300 years of service across thousands of species catalogued, he had never seen anything like this. Not even close. Send a message to the human vessel, he said slowly. Thank them for their cooperation. Tell them the scan is complete. Kara looked up at him. Overlord, what do we do with this data? Thain did not answer right away. He was still trying to understand what he was looking at. Finally he spoke. We analyze it carefully, very carefully, and we do not share this data with anyone until we understand what we are dealing with. I have a feeling that humanity is not like any species we have encountered before. On the KS horizon, Captain Minho received the thank you message from the Vexari. The scan was over. Everything seemed fine. His crew went back to their normal duties. None of them knew that aboard the Infinite Archive, the Vexari were beginning to panic. The data they had collected was impossible, terrifying, and absolutely real, and they had only just begun to understand what it meant. The simple scan that was supposed to take 10 minutes and produce a basic catalog entry would end up taking weeks to analyze, and when the analysis was complete, it would change how the entire galaxy viewed humanity forever. But for now, as the two ships drifted in the darkness of space, everyone thought everything was fine. The humans were happy to have made first contact with a friendly species. The Vexari were quietly terrified but trying not to show it. It was the beginning of a very strange friendship. 3 days had passed since the scan. The KS Horizon had moved on to explore a nearby star system. Captain Minho and his crew had almost forgotten about the Vexari. It had been a pleasant enough first contact. Nothing special, just another entry in their mission log. On the Infinite Archive, however, things were very different. The analysis teams had not slept properly in 3 days. They took turns examining the data, checking and rechecking their findings. Every time they looked at the information, it seemed more impossible than before. Chief Analyst Byung stood in front of a massive display screen. He was the head of the Technical Analysis Department. His job was to understand how alien technology worked. In his 200 years of service, he had analyzed everything from simple steam engines to dimension-bending hyperdrives. Nothing had ever confused him like this. The human power systems are redundant to an absurd degree, he explained to Overlord Thain. They have 17 reactors. If 16 of them fail, the ship keeps running. But it gets stranger. Each reactor uses a different type of fuel. Some use fusion. Some use antimatter. One appears to run on controlled chemical explosions. Thain stared at the display. Why would anyone design a system like that? It seems inefficient. That is what I thought at first, Byung said. But then I realized something. If one fuel source becomes unavailable, they can switch to another. If a reactor breaks in a way they did not expect, they have 16 others. This is not inefficient. This is paranoid. They designed their ship assuming everything would break. Overlord Thain felt a chill run through his body. He had never heard of a species that designed their technology with such extreme caution. Most civilizations built ships that worked well under normal conditions. The humans built ships that worked when everything went wrong. In another part of the infinite archive, biological expert Una was having an even worse time. She was a doctor and a scientist. She had studied the biology of hundreds of species. She thought she had seen everything. She was wrong. The human body makes no sense, she said to her assistant Thain. Her voice shook slightly. It should not be able to function. Look at this data. Their blood carries oxygen using iron-based molecules. That is normal enough. But they also have a backup system in their muscles that stores extra oxygen, and another backup in their liver that can produce emergency energy. Thain looked at the scans. Is that why they have two of many organs? Redundancy? Yes. Una said, her voice getting louder. 2 kidneys, 2 lungs. They can lose one and survive. Their liver can regenerate if damaged. Their bones repair themselves and become stronger after breaking. And their immune system. She paused, trying to find the right words. Their immune system is insane. She pulled up another screen showing microscopic images. Humans carry trillions of bacteria in their digestive systems. Trillions! These bacteria would kill most species we know. But humans need them to survive. They have formed a partnership with what should be their enemies. Thain felt sick. This is a horror show. How did they evolve like this? Una pulled up more data. This time it showed information about Earth, the human homeworld. As she read the details, her expression changed from confusion to shock to something like terror. Their planet is a death world, she whispered. Class 12 hazard rating. The entire planet is covered in organisms trying to kill each other. Predators, parasites, diseases, poisonous plants. Humans evolved in a place where everything was a threat. That explains the redundancy, Thain said quietly. If you live in a place where anything can kill you at any moment, you need backup systems for everything. It gets worse, Una continued. Look at their evolutionary history. They almost went extinct several times. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, diseases. Each time the population dropped to just a few thousand individuals. And each time they survived and rebuilt. The young analyst Kara was having her own crisis in the cultural analysis section. She had been reviewing the human entertainment files. What she found there terrified her more than the biological data. They make games about extinction, she told Voss, the senior analyst. Not just 1 or 2. Thousands of games. They simulate alien invasions, zombie plagues, nuclear wars, robot uprisings. They play these games for fun. Voss looked at the files. Maybe it is just fiction. Entertainment. No, Kara said, shaking her head. I thought that too at first. But look closer. These are not just stories. They are training simulations. They imagine terrible scenarios and then plan how to survive them. Their children play these games. They teach their young how to survive the apocalypse. She pulled up more files. And look at this. They have a concept they call science fiction. They write stories about things that have not happened yet. Space travel, alien contact, time travel, artificial intelligence. They wrote stories about meeting aliens centuries before they actually left their planet. Why? Voss asked. To prepare, Kara said simply. They imagine every possible future and plan for it. They do not wait for problems to happen. They predict them and prepare solutions in advance. That evening, Overlord Thain called a meeting of all department heads. Byung, Una, Thain, Voss, and Kara gathered in the conference room. They all looked exhausted. More than that, they looked scared. Thain stood at the head of the table. Give me your summary reports, Byung went first. The human ship is designed to survive catastrophic failure. Every system has multiple backups using different technologies. They do not trust any single solution. This suggests a species that expects everything to break. Una spoke next. Human biology shows the same pattern. Redundant organs, aggressive immune systems, incredible healing abilities. They evolved on a planet that constantly tried to kill them. Their bodies are built for survival under the worst conditions. Kara added her findings. Their culture reflects this mindset. They constantly imagine worst-case scenarios. Extinction, invasion, disaster. Then they plan how to survive. This is not pessimism. This is preparation. Overlord Thain sat down heavily. In all our archives across all the species we have cataloged, we have never seen anything like this. Most species specialize. They become good at one thing. Warriors or scientists or diplomats. Humans are generalists. They prepare for everything. Is that bad? Thain asked. Thain was quiet for a moment. I do not know. But I know this. Humanity is only 300 years old as a spacefaring species. In that time, they have developed technology that took us thousands of years to create. They did it quickly because they were in a hurry. They wanted to explore space before something on their planet killed them all. The room was silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing. If humans could advance this quickly while expecting disaster at every turn, what would they become in another 1,000 years? We need to study them more, Yuna said. We need to understand them. Byung shook his head. I am not sure we can understand them. Our species evolved in peace. We had time to become civilized before we reached the stars. Humans did not have that luxury. They reached space while still carrying the survival instincts of their death world. Overlord Thain made a decision. We will continue our analysis, but we will also do something we have never done before. We will contact the humans again. We will ask them questions. We will try to understand why they are the way they are. Is that wise? Voss asked. The protocols say we should observe, not interact. The protocols were written for normal species, Thain replied. Humanity is not normal. If we want to understand them, we need to talk to them. We need to ask them directly why they build ships that cannot fail and why they prepare for disasters that may never come. That night, a message was sent to the KS Horizon. Captain Minho received it while drinking coffee in his quarters. The message was simple. The Vexari request a second meeting. They have questions about humanity. Minho smiled. First contact always led to more questions. That was normal. He had no idea that the Vexari were not asking simple cultural questions. They were trying to understand how humanity had become the galaxy's most successful survivors, without even knowing there was a competition. The KS Horizon turned around and headed back to meet with the Infinite Archive. Captain Minho brought his senior staff to the meeting. Engineer Jiho, Medical Officer Dr. Hana, and Navigator Soman. They were curious about what the Vexari wanted to know. The meeting took place on the Infinite Archive. The humans were escorted to a large conference room. Overlord Thain waited there with his team, Chief Analyst Byung, Biological Expert Yuna, Technology Specialist Taemin, and the young analyst Kara. The Vexari all looked tired and stressed. Minho noticed their expressions immediately. Is something wrong, he asked. Did our ship data show a problem? Thain hesitated. Not a problem exactly, more of a confusion. Your species is very different from what we expected. We have questions, ask away, Minho said with a smile. We are happy to share information. Byung spoke first. Your ship has 17 power reactors. Why so many? 1 or 2 would be sufficient for a vessel this size. Jiho laughed. Oh, that. Well, we learned the hard way that reactors can fail. Back in the early days of space exploration, we had ships that ran on single power sources. When those failed, people died. So now we build ships with lots of backups. If 1 reactor breaks, we have 16 more. But why use different types of fuel? Byung pressed. It makes your system complicated. Complicated but reliable, Jiho replied. What if we run out of 1 type of fuel? What if a disease affects our antimatter storage? What if something we have not thought of goes wrong? With different fuel types, we always have options. The Vexari looked at each other. This human assumed everything would fail eventually. It was not pessimism. It was planning. Yuna asked the next question, her voice shaky. Your biology is very unusual. You carry dangerous microorganisms inside your body. Is this normal for humans? Dr. Hana nodded. Yes, completely normal. We have trillions of bacteria in our digestive system. They help us process food. Without them, we would get sick and die. But these organisms are dangerous, Yuna said. They would be classified as biological weapons on most worlds. Dr. Hana looked surprised. Really? To us, they are just normal bacteria. I guess Earth is a pretty rough place compared to other planets. Everything there evolved to be tough. The bacteria, the plants, the animals, and us. Your planet is classified as a Class 12 hazard world, Yuna said quietly. One of the most dangerous types of planets in our database. How did your species survive there? Dr. Hana shrugged. We adapted. Our bodies developed strong immune systems. We learned to cook our food to kill parasites. We built shelters to protect us from predators. We figured out which plants were poisonous and which were safe. It took thousands of years, but we managed. You almost went extinct several times, Yuna added. Ice ages, volcanic events, diseases, yet you survived each time. That is true, Dr. Hana said. Humans are stubborn. When things get bad, we do not give up. We find a way to survive. It is just part of who we are. Kara could not stay quiet any longer. Your entertainment files, she blurted out. You make games about extinction. You tell stories about disasters. Why, Soman smiled. Oh, you found our movies and games. Yeah, we love a good disaster story. Zombie apocalypse, alien invasion, robot uprising. That stuff is great, but why? Kara asked, sounding distressed. Why would you entertain yourselves with stories about dying? Someone thought for a moment. I guess it is because we like to be prepared. If we imagine something going wrong, we can think about how to survive it. Plus, it is exciting. Humans like challenges. We like solving problems, even imaginary ones. Captain Minho added, We have a saying on Earth, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. We do not expect disasters to happen, but we like knowing we could handle them if they did. It makes us feel safer, Overlord Thain spoke up. Your ship is equipped for exploration, but it also has heavy weapons. Why does a research vessel need so much firepower? Minho looked uncomfortable for a moment. Well, we do not know what is out here in space. We hope to meet friendly species like you, but we also need to be ready in case we meet something hostile, or in case we need to defend ourselves from space pirates, or in case a solar flare damages our systems and we need to blast through debris. The weapons have many uses. So your primary mission is research, but you are also prepared for combat? Thain asked. Minho nodded. I guess you could say our primary mission is survival. Research is what we want to do. Combat is what we are ready to do if we must. We hope we never have to fight anyone, but if we do, we will be ready. The Vexari were silent. They were beginning to understand. Humans did not think in terms of single purposes. They thought in terms of multiple scenarios. Every ship was a research vessel and a warship. Every mission was about learning and surviving. Byung asked another question. You have been spacefaring for only 300 years, yet your technology is very advanced. How did you progress so quickly? Jiho grinned. We were in a hurry. Earth had limited resources. We had wars over oil, water, and land. We knew if we stayed on one planet, we would eventually destroy ourselves or the planet would destroy us. So we pushed hard to get into space. We had to move fast. You developed faster than light travel in less than 300 years, Byung said, his voice showing his disbelief. It took most species thousands of years. We had motivation, Jiho said simply. We needed to spread out. We needed more worlds to live on. So we worked on the problem until we solved it. Humans are good at solving problems when we really need to. Dr. Hana added, Also, we are curious. We wanted to see what was out here. We wanted to meet other species. We wanted to explore. That curiosity drove us to develop better technology. Overlord Thain leaned back in his chair. I think I am beginning to understand. Your species evolved in a dangerous environment. You learned to expect problems and prepare for them. When you reached space, you brought that mindset with you. You build redundancy into everything because you assume failure is inevitable. That is about right, Minho said. Failure is not a possibility. It is a certainty. Everything breaks eventually. Everyone makes mistakes. The question is not if something will go wrong. The question is what we do when it goes wrong. That is a terrifying way to view the universe, Kara whispered, is it? Someone asked. We find it comforting. If we know things will go wrong, we can prepare. It is the unexpected problems that are scary. If we expect everything, nothing can surprise us. The meeting continued for hours. The Vexari asked question after question. The humans answered honestly, not understanding why their answers seemed to disturb the Vexari so much. To humans, their way of thinking was normal. It was just common sense. Finally, Thain asked one last question. If you expect everything to fail, if you prepare for every disaster, are you not constantly afraid? Minho smiled. No, we are not afraid. We are ready. There is a difference. Fear paralyzes you. Preparation frees you. We can explore the universe without fear because we know we can handle whatever comes. We have backups, plans, and the will to survive. After the humans left, the Vexari sat in silence. They finally understood humanity. These were survivors from a death world who had turned their trauma into strength. They did not hope disaster would not come. They prepared for when it inevitably would. Humanity was not just another species. They were the galaxy's contingency plan for scenarios no one else had imagined yet, and they had no idea how special that made them. After the humans left, the Vexari analysis teams went deeper into the data. What they found in the following days made their earlier discoveries seem tame by comparison. The more they learned about humanity, the more disturbed they became. Yuna called an emergency meeting. Her face was pale, and her hands trembled as she presented her findings. I have been studying human pain tolerance, she began. The results are deeply troubling. She displayed medical data on the screen. Humans have done things to themselves voluntarily that would be considered torture for most species. They climb mountains in freezing temperatures just to reach the top. They run for hours until their bodies are near collapse. They lift heavy objects repeatedly until their muscles tear. And they call this sport or exercise. Overlord Thain stared at the data. Why would they hurt themselves on purpose? According to their cultural files, Yuna explained, they believe that suffering makes them stronger. They have a saying, what does not kill you makes you stronger. They actively seek out difficult challenges because they think it improves them. That is insane, Kara whispered. There is more, Yuna continued. Humans have something they call extreme sports. They jump out of flying vehicles for fun. They climb up vertical cliffs without safety equipment. They surf on waves that could crush them. They do these things knowing they might die, and they enjoy it. The room was silent. The Vexari could not understand this behavior. Their own species avoided unnecessary risk. Safety was valued above all else. But humans seemed to actively seek danger. In another part of the ship, technology specialist Thain was making his own disturbing discovery. He had been studying the control systems of the human ship. What he found shocked him. He presented his findings to Chief Analyst Byung. The human ship has manual overrides for every single system. Everything can be controlled by hand if the computers fail. The engines, the weapons, the life support, everything. Byung frowned. But their computers are excellent. Why would they need manual controls? I asked the human engineer that question, Thain said. His answer was disturbing. He said, so we can fix it when it breaks in a way we did not anticipate. They do not trust their own technology completely. They assume it will fail in unexpected ways. That makes no sense, Byung said. If you design your systems properly, they should not fail. Thain pulled up more files. That is what I thought. But look at their history. Their early spacecraft failed constantly. Explosions, crashes, system malfunctions. Hundreds of humans died testing their space technology. They kept detailed records of every failure. And they learned from each one. He showed images of destroyed spacecraft, failed launches, and disaster reports. They treat failure as a teacher, Thain continued. Every mistake is studied. Every death is documented. They build their next version based on what went wrong with the previous one. Their technology evolved through catastrophic failure. Byung felt sick. Our species would have stopped after the first few disasters. We would have decided space travel was too dangerous. But humans kept trying until they succeeded. Exactly, Thain said. They have something in their culture that they call determination or stubbornness. When told something is impossible, they take it as a challenge. They try harder. Failure makes them angry, and they use that anger to fuel their next attempt. Meanwhile, Kara was discovering something equally troubling in the historical archives. She had been studying human warfare. What she found terrified her. She brought her findings to Overlord Thain. Sir, humans have not fought a major war in 200 years. At first I thought this meant they had become peaceful. But I was wrong. Thain looked up from his work. What do you mean? They stopped fighting because they ran out of reasons to fight, Kara explained. Once they reached space, they had unlimited resources, unlimited territory. There was nothing left to fight over. So they turned their aggressive energy toward other things. Exploration, sports, business, art. That sounds positive, Thain said. It is, Kara agreed. But it also means their capacity for war has not gone away. It is just redirected. If something threatened humanity, if they needed to fight again, they could. And based on their history, they would be very good at it. She displayed historical records. Before they reached space, humans fought constantly. They developed terrible weapons. Nuclear bombs, biological agents, chemical warfare. They created ways to destroy their entire planet. And they almost used them, but they did not, Thain noted. No, Kara said. They pulled back from the edge. They decided that cooperation was better than destruction. But the fact that they were willing to build such weapons shows how dangerous they can be when threatened. That evening, all the senior staff gathered again. They were exhausted, overwhelmed, and frightened. The data they had collected painted a picture of a species unlike anything in their archives. Overlord Thain looked around the room. Give me your honest assessments. What do you think of humanity? Yuna spoke first. They are survivors. Everything about them, Their biology, their culture, their technology is designed for survival under the worst conditions. They are living weapons built by a death world, Byung added. They do not trust anything to work perfectly. They always have a backup plan. And a backup for the backup. This makes them incredibly resilient, but also reveals a deep-seated expectation that everything will eventually fail. Thain said, "They learn from failure in ways we do not. Where we would stop, they keep going. Where we would accept defeat, they try harder. It is admirable and terrifying." Kara's voice shook as she spoke. They imagine terrible scenarios for entertainment. They train their children to survive the apocalypse. They prepare for extinctions that may never happen, and they think this is normal. Overlord Thain nodded slowly. In all our million years of cataloging species, we have never encountered anything like them. Most species specialize. They become warriors or scientists or diplomats. Humans are generalists who excel at everything through sheer determination. What do we do with this information? Byung asked. Do we share it with the Galactic Council? Thain was quiet for a long time. Then he made a decision. We do something we have never done before. We reach out to humanity not as observers but as partners. They have capabilities that no other species possesses. Their ability to plan for disasters, to survive impossible situations, to turn failure into learning. These are valuable traits. You want to ally with them? Voss asked, shocked. Yes, Thain said firmly. The galaxy is stable now, but that will not last forever. Eventually there will be a crisis. A war, a plague, a cosmic disaster. When that happens, humanity will know how to survive. They have been preparing for the end of the world their entire existence. They are the galaxy insurance policy. The room was silent as everyone considered this. Finally, Kara spoke. If we align with them, we need to be honest about what we found. We need to tell them that their data disturbed us. Agreed, Thain said. We will approach them with honesty. We will tell them that they scare us, and then we will ask them to teach us how to think like survivors. The decision was made. The Vexari would not just catalog humanity and move on. They would forge an alliance. For the first time in their history, they had found a species they could learn from instead of just studying. And humanity, still unaware of how unique they were, would soon learn that their greatest strength was not their technology or their weapons. It was their refusal to give up no matter how bad things got. 3 weeks had passed since the initial scan. Captain Minho received another message from Overlord Thain. This one was different. It was not a request for information. It was an invitation for a formal alliance meeting. Minho was surprised but pleased. He brought his entire senior crew, Jiho, Dr. Hana, and Soman. When they arrived at the Infinite Archive, they noticed the Vexari seemed more relaxed than before. Still serious but not as stressed. Overlord Thain greeted them personally, along with his team, Byung, Yuna, Thain, Kara, and Voss. Captain Minho, Thain began formally. We asked you here because we need to be honest with you. The scan we performed on your vessel revealed more than we expected. Much more. Minho looked concerned. Is something wrong? Not wrong exactly, Thain said carefully, but your species is very unusual. The data we collected frightened us. It still frightens us, if I am being honest. The humans looked at each other in confusion. Jiho spoke up. What about us is frightening? We are just explorers, Yuna stepped forward. Your biology is terrifying. You evolved on a death world. Your immune system could destroy most pathogens in the galaxy. The bacteria you carry inside you would be classified as bioweapons on most planets. Your bodies are built to survive conditions that would kill any other species we know. Dr. Hana looked surprised. We are just adapted to Earth. We cannot help how we evolved. We know, Yuna said quickly. That is not a criticism. It is just a fact. You are biological survivors in the most extreme sense, Byung continued. Your technology shows the same pattern. Everything has multiple backups. You design your ships expecting catastrophic failure. You do not trust anything to work perfectly. This makes your technology incredibly reliable, but it also reveals a mindset that assumes disaster is inevitable. Well, yes, Jiho said. Things do break. Better to be prepared than sorry. Kara spoke next, her voice nervous. Your culture prepares for apocalypse as a normal activity. You tell stories about extinction. You train your children to survive disasters. You imagine worst-case scenarios and then plan for them. This is not normal behavior for most species. Soman laughed nervously. I guess we are a bit paranoid. But that is because bad things have happened to us in the past. We almost went extinct several times. We learned to be careful. Overlord Thain raised his hand. Please understand we are not judging you. We are trying to explain why your data disturbed us. In our million years of cataloging species, we have never seen anything like humanity. You are survivors on a level we did not know was possible. Captain Minho was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke carefully. I think I understand. You come from a safer part of the galaxy. Your evolution was probably peaceful. Ours was not. Earth is a rough place. It made us tough. Maybe tougher than we needed to be. That is exactly right, Thain said. And that is why we want to propose something unprecedented. We want to form an alliance with humanity. The humans were shocked. Minho recovered first. An alliance? Why? Because you have capabilities we do not, Thain explained. We Vixari are archivists and scholars. We record information. We preserve knowledge. But we are not survivors in the way you are. If a real crisis came to the galaxy, we would not know how to handle it. You would, Thain added. You think in ways we do not. When we see a problem, we try to understand it. When you see a problem, you find a way to survive it. That is a valuable skill, Byung continued. We have the knowledge of 1,000,000 years stored in our archives. You have the practical skills to use that knowledge in a crisis. Together, we could be much stronger than apart. Minho looked at his crew. They nodded. He turned back to Thain. What kind of alliance are you proposing? Thain explained. We share our archives with you. All our collected knowledge from 1,000,000 years of observation. In return, you share your way of thinking with us. You teach us how to plan for disasters, how to build redundancy, how to think like survivors. That seems like an unequal trade, Dr. Hanna said. Your archives are worth far more than our advice. No, Una disagreed. Information is only valuable if you know how to use it in a crisis. You have that skill naturally, we do not. What you offer is worth as much as what we offer, Salman asked. What do you want us to teach you specifically? How to survive, Kara said simply. How to keep going when everything goes wrong. How to turn disaster into opportunity. How to refuse to give up. These are things humans do naturally. We need to learn them, Captain Minho smiled. I think we can help with that. Though I should warn you, it is not easy. Survival requires accepting that bad things will happen. It requires planning for failure. It requires never giving up even when things seem hopeless. That is exactly what we need to learn, Thain said firmly. The alliance was formed that day. The Vexari agreed to share their vast archives with humanity. The humans agreed to share their survival philosophy and practical skills. Both sides knew they were stronger together. Over the following months, the partnership grew. Human engineers worked with Vexari scientists, adding redundancy to Vexari systems. Vexari scholars shared ancient knowledge with human researchers. The cultural exchange was unprecedented in galactic history. Kara became close friends with Sumin. One day, over drinks in the mess hall, Kara asked a question that had been bothering her. How do you stay optimistic? You prepare for disasters, you expect everything to fail. How do you not become depressed? Soman thought for a moment. Because preparation is not pessimism. It is freedom. When we have backup plans, we can try things without fear. If we fail, we have other options. It is actually very liberating. We can explore, take risks, and try new things because we know we will survive if it goes wrong. That makes sense, Kara said slowly. You are not afraid of failure because you plan for it. Exactly, Soman said with a smile. Failure is just another problem to solve. It is not the end. It is just another step toward eventual success. 6 months after the alliance formed, Overlord Thain prepared a report for the Galactic Council. He described humanity in detail, their biology, technology, culture, and philosophy. The conclusion was carefully worded. Humanity is classified as threat level maximum due to their capabilities and resilience. However, they are simultaneously classified as protected asset, critical to galactic survival. They are dangerous, but they are also essential. Any species that can survive on a Class 12 death, world and develop faster than light, travel in 300 years should be treated as both a potential threat and a valuable ally. The Vexari recommend formal alliance with humanity. Their survival skills, technological redundancy, and refusal to accept defeat make them the galaxy contingency plan for scenarios we have not yet imagined. The report was filed in the Infinite Archive. It was the first time in Vexari history that they had recommended an alliance rather than simple observation. On the KS horizon, Captain Minho received a message from Earth Command. 20 more human ships were being sent to Vexari space to continue the cultural exchange. The message ended with a very human phrase. "Make new friends, but keep your shields charged." Jiho laughed when he saw it. "That is so human. Make friends, but prepare for betrayal." Minho smiled. "That is exactly right. Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. It is who we are." Years later, when the first real galactic crisis came, humanity was ready. They had been ready their entire existence. And the Vexari, who had learned from them, were ready too. The Alliance proved itself when it mattered most. The scan that had driven the Vexari mad with confusion and fear had ultimately saved them. By understanding humanity's terrifying capabilities, they had gained the galaxy's most valuable partners. And humanity, who had always thought their paranoid preparation was a weakness, learned it was actually their greatest strength. In the end, the galaxy learned an important lesson. Survivors do not hope disaster will not come. They prepare for when it inevitably does. And humanity, the death world species who expected everything to break and everyone to fail, became the foundation upon which galactic civilization could safely build its future. The end.